What if I told you that you're not winning her back every time you try to explain yourself to her? You're making her lose respect for you. Yes, I know the urge, the desperate need to clarify, make her see your side and fix everything with words. But here's the reality. Explaining isn't strength. It's fear disguised as logic. The more you explain, the more powerless you appear, and powerless is never attractive. But here's the good news. This uncomfortable moment you're facing is not a dead end. It's an invitation to build yourself into someone who no longer needs to explain, because your presence alone will speak louder than any words ever could. In Stoicism, the most potent response is silence paired with action. Right now, you stand between two roads. One leads to more justifications, more frustration, and more distance. The other, it leads to self-mastery and eventually unshakable confidence. If you're ready to stop chasing and start leading, hit the like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. I own my silence. Now let's dive deep. Number 1. Why over-explaining quietly destroys your value. Many men fall into the trap of thinking that if they explain themselves well enough, women will believe them, trust them, and ultimately be attracted to them. But the hard truth is, the more you explain, the more you damage yourself. In male and female dynamics, attraction rarely comes from words, it comes from presence. When you over-explain, you unknowingly signal doubt, insecurity, and a need for validation. The Stoic man knows that real trust is built through action, not long-winded justifications. Imagine this common scenario. A woman says, "Why didn't you text me last night?" The average man panics, thinking he needs to avoid upsetting her, so he scrambles for reasons. "I was tired, work was crazy, my phone died, and I didn't want you to think I was ignoring you." What does this sound like to her? It sounds like you are pleading for approval. It sounds like you are afraid. And worse, it makes her subconsciously question whether you are telling the truth, even if you are. The Stoic man would simply say, "I was busy." Short, clear, unapologetic, no defense, no desperation. Why? Because he knows that explanations rarely build connection, they often destroy it. Women are emotional beings, not logical evaluators of data. They don't trust you more when you explain, they trust you more when you stand calmly behind your words and actions without trying to sell them. From a Stoic perspective, this is the power of restraint. You speak when necessary, not when pressured. You are not rude or cold. You are simply anchored. The man who does not need to explain excessively is the man who trusts himself. And this trust is contagious. She feels it. She senses you don't need her approval. And paradoxically, this makes her more intrigued. The more you explain, the more you enter into a defensive posture. You place yourself lower, signaling that you feel you've done something wrong, even when you haven't. Over time, this destroys attraction because it paints you as someone who fears disapproval more than he values his own peace. The Stoic man avoids this completely by keeping his words minimal but meaningful. This doesn't mean you are evasive or dismissive. It means you refuse to let insecurity dictate your communication. You allow mystery to work for you. You understand that she doesn't need to know every detail. What she needs is to feel your composure. Comment below, "I speak less because I trust more." When you master this, you step into a place few men occupy. You become unpredictable, calm, and powerful. Not because you dominate the conversation, but because you don't need to. The fewer words you use, the more impact they carry. Number 2, over-explaining makes you look weak, the hidden signal you didn't notice. One of the most common yet subtle ways men lose respect without realizing is by over-explaining. While it may seem like you're just being honest or transparent, the reality is that excessive justifications often scream insecurity. The moment you start giving long, detailed reasons for simple actions, you shift from appearing calm and confident to looking like a man seeking permission to be himself. And women can sense this instantly, even if they don't say it outright. Picture this. She asks, "Why didn't you text me last night?" The average man, fearing he might upset her, launches into an explanation. "Oh, I was super tired, had a terrible day, and my phone was acting up. I hope you're not mad." He thinks this will soften the situation and prove his good intentions. In reality, it signals the exact opposite. It shows that he is worried about her opinion and is scrambling to secure her approval. To most women, this appears as emotional weakness, even if they empathize. The Stoic man takes a different route. He knows that true strength is not found in words, but in composure. His answer is brief, firm, and without anxiety. "I was busy." That's it. No apologies, no story, no emotional flinching. It's not about being cold, it's about being centered. His value does not depend on whether she understands his every move or accepts it without question. He is who he is, and that is enough. The message it sends beneath the surface makes this approach so effective. It tells her, "I control my time, actions, and energy. I don't need to justify them to anyone." Ironically, this creates more attraction than any perfect explanation ever could. She may not agree with everything you do, but she will respect that you do it without seeking approval. This principle aligns perfectly with Stoicism. You are responsible for your actions, but not for how others choose to interpret them. You do not explain out of fear. You speak when necessary, but let your presence do most of the talking. The less you need to explain, the stronger you appear. Not because you hide something, but because the need for validation does not control you. Over time, keeping your words precise and grounded makes you stand out. In a world where most men nervously explain themselves to avoid discomfort, you calmly accept that you can and should not control how others feel about you. Comment below, "I stand firm without over-explaining." Learn this well. The man who does not explain unnecessarily is the man who carries silent authority. And authority, when combined with composure, is one of the most attractive traits you can possess. Number 3. Mystery is magnetic. Why saying less pulls her closer. In relationships and attraction, most men think that if a woman is confused or curious about their behavior, they need to clarify everything immediately. They explain too much, hoping it will reduce tension and secure her approval. But they don't realize that uncertainty is not always a threat. It is often the very thing that makes women feel intrigued and emotionally invested. The Stoic man knows that mystery is not a weakness, but a quiet strength. For example, imagine she asks, "Why didn't you message me last night?" The average man will panic, fearing he may have upset her, and respond with a full breakdown of his day. "I was at work late. Then my car had issues and I got home exhausted, plus I had to catch up on emails." While this sounds responsible, it immediately kills the mystery. She knows exactly what you did, how you felt, and why. There is nothing left for her to wonder about. Without realizing it, you've taken away the natural tension that makes attraction grow. The Stoic man, however, simply says, "I was busy," short, clear, unapologetic. But here's where the power lies. It leaves a gap. Now, she fills that gap with imagination. What was he doing? Who was he with? Was it something important? Could it be that he values his time that much? These silent questions build emotional investment without you having to do anything more. Women are naturally drawn to men they don't fully understand. It's not about playing games. It's about leaving space for her to invest. The less you explain, the more she leans in. The more she tries to figure you out, the more emotionally engaged she becomes. This is why men who are too available, too explainable, and too obvious often find themselves friend-zoned or losing a woman's interest. The tension disappears. Stoicism teaches that you don't need to completely fill every silence or answer every question. The wisest approach is often to let curiosity do the work for you. You are not evasive. You are simply not performing. You let reality speak louder than explanation. You trust that the right people will be drawn to your stillness and composure, not to how many words you use to make them comfortable. This does not mean you ignore her or avoid connection. It means you give her the gift of wanting to know you more instead of handing her every answer. You show that you are not desperate to be understood immediately, and that is precisely what makes you irresistible. Comment below, I let mystery do the heavy lifting. Master this art and you will find that often, the less you explain, the more women invest. Not because you're withholding, but because you're inviting them into the space you've deliberately left open. Number 4. Explaining puts you on defense. Why you lose frame without knowing. In the heat of everyday interactions, many men unknowingly surrender their position of strength by falling into the habit of over-explaining. Whenever you justify yourself beyond what is necessary, you subconsciously position yourself as someone who needs forgiveness, approval, or permission. And in the subtle world of attraction, this does more damage than you think. A Stoic man understands that attraction is not just about what you say, but how you carry yourself, especially under subtle pressure. Picture this situation. She asks, "Why didn't you invite me to the event?" Most men, worried about upsetting her, will rush to justify. "Oh, I didn't know if you'd be free, and I wasn't sure you'd even want to go. I also thought you might already have plans." Sounds harmless, right? But the unspoken message you send is that you fear her disapproval. You're already negotiating for acceptance, subtly apologizing for a decision that was fully yours to make. The Stoic man answers differently. He says, "I went with a few friends." No apology, no story, no seeking of approval. Why? Because he understands that his actions don't need to be defended if they were made with clarity and integrity. The fact that he is unapologetic but respectful makes him attractive. He is not defensive because he is not guilty. And women sense this immediately. From a Stoic viewpoint, this is called ownership. You own your decisions without fear of misunderstanding. You are not rude, you are not dismissive, but you also do not bend under pressure. You trust yourself enough to let your choices stand as they are, without weaving elaborate justifications. And when you do this, something powerful happens. You stop giving away power. You remain the leader of your own life. Women may push to test you, not always consciously, but as a way to see if you are steady. Will you crumble under the weight of her emotions? Will you scramble to ensure she's always comfortable, even if it means losing your ground? The man who calmly explains himself only when necessary, not when pressured, proves himself without words. He demonstrates strength through restraint. Over-explaining also erodes sexual polarity. A woman wants to feel like she is with a man who can stand firm, even when faced with emotional storms. When you start playing defense, you signal that you are reacting to her rather than leading the interaction. True strength is the ability to hold tension without rushing to dissolve it. Comment below, I own my actions without defense. When you stop explaining to avoid discomfort and start explaining only when it matters, you regain control, not through aggression, but through calm, quiet leadership. And this is what women respond to, not the words, but the man who isn't afraid to let silence speak for him. Number 5. Approval. Seeking the silent killer of attraction. Many men fall into a subtle but destructive habit without realizing, explaining too much because they secretly want to be liked. This behavior doesn't usually come from bad intentions. It often stems from a desire to show respect, prevent conflict, or ensure she fully understands you. However, it signals something far less attractive, a need for approval. And nothing dries up attraction faster than a man who needs validation to feel secure. Imagine this common scenario. She asks, "Why don't you post photos of us online?" A man who fears losing her approval may nervously explain, "It's not that I don't want to, I just don't like social media, don't know how to post properly, and don't want to bother people." The more you explain, the more you unconsciously communicate that you prioritize her approval over your values. You sound like you're trying to justify why it's okay for you to be yourself, as if you need her permission to hold your position. The Stoic man would answer simply and calmly, "I don't post my private life." No apology, no justification, no wavering. Why? Because he is not seeking permission. He is living by his principles, which don't require external validation. This is not about being dismissive. It is about self-secession. The quiet confidence to live without bending every time someone challenges it is, ironically, one of the most attractive traits you can display. The root problem with approval-seeking behavior is that it shows her you are uncertain about your decisions. It reveals that you don't fully trust yourself unless she reassures you. But women are naturally drawn to men who have already made peace with themselves. Men who stay rooted in who they are, whether accepted or misunderstood. The less you seek approval, the more valuable your attention becomes. From the Stoic lens, this is about honoring your logos, your reason, your guiding principles. If you know why you do something and it aligns with your values, you need no further explanation. Seeking approval isn't just weak, it's unnecessary. The right people will understand you without needing endless clarification. And those who don't? That's outside your control. When you drop the habit of over-explaining, you create a shift. You move from trying to be liked to simply being respected. And respect is the foundation of lasting attraction. A woman may not always agree with you, but if you hold your frame with calmness and conviction, she will feel something far more valuable than agreement, admiration. Comment below, "I do not seek approval, I live by principle." The Stoic man does not explain himself out of fear. He speaks when needed, not when pressured. And in that silence he commands the kind of attention that words alone could never buy. Number 6. Over-explaining kills mystery and challenge. Why predictability makes you forgettable. Attraction is deeply tied to a woman's curiosity and emotional engagement. Women don't just want facts, they want to feel something when they are around you. Yet most men, driven by the fear of being misunderstood, kill this mystery prematurely. They over-explain, clarify every detail, and answer every question like they are on trial. In doing so, they remove the very tension that makes them interesting in the first place. Let's take a simple example. She asks, "What are you doing tonight?" The insecure man starts listing. "I have dinner with John, then I'll probably watch a movie at home, maybe finish some work." His intention is good, to be open and communicative, but the result? He has now left nothing for her to wonder about. There's no tension, no curiosity, and therefore no emotional investment. You have answered too much, giving away every piece of the puzzle when leaving a few pieces missing would have drawn her in. The Stoic man approaches this differently. His reply might simply be, "I have plans." That's it. No details, no long-winded explanation. He is not hiding anything. He is simply not obligated to share everything. This response is neither cold nor distant. It's calm, self-hund, and slightly intriguing. It leaves a question mark hanging in the air, where attraction often begins. When you constantly over-explain, you remove the element of discovery. You signal that you are desperate to be understood completely and seen as good or harmless. But the truth is, women don't fall for men because they know everything about them. They fall for the ones they want to know more about. The man who keeps a little space for mystery creates emotional engagement without trying harder. This is not about playing hard to get or using manipulation. It is about understanding that your value increases when you don't give yourself away so easily. The Stoic man doesn't need to be an open book immediately. He knows that mystery naturally invites curiosity, and curiosity is the fuel of lasting attraction. From the Stoic perspective, this is a lesson in temperance. To say less when less is needed, and to be content with others not fully knowing you right away. The need to explain everything often comes from insecurity, but once you embrace your own completeness, you no longer need others to validate your every move. Comment below. I allow mystery to work for me. The men who hold a little back, who let women wonder, who don't explain every action, stay on a woman's mind long after the conversation ends. It's not because they played games, but because they knew how to value their own presence. Number 7. Over-explaining signals insecurity. Why less is more when it comes to self-trust. Insecure men often reveal themselves not by what they say, but by how much they say. The impulse to explain too much usually comes from a hidden need for reassurance, the desire to make sure the woman gets you, understands you fully, and most dangerously approves of you. Yet paradoxically, over-explaining sends the opposite signal, that you are uncertain, hesitant, and secretly looking for her permission to be yourself. Imagine she asks, "Why didn't you text me today?" An insecure man quickly floods the space with explanations. "I was super busy, my phone battery died, and then I had to handle this client, and afterward I didn't want to bother you late at night." From his perspective, this is harmless honesty. From her perspective, it smells like self-doubt. If you were truly comfortable with your choice, why the long defense? Why does it sound like you are convincing yourself more than her? The Stoic man would respond differently. He might say, "I don't use my phone much," calm, grounded, and without apology. This kind of response shifts the dynamic instantly. It tells her that you are not seeking approval but simply stating reality. No extra words, emotional scrambling, or desperate attempt to make sure she likes your explanation. You are who you are, and whether she understands fully or not, you remain steady. Women, whether they realize it consciously or not, are highly sensitive to a man's emotional frame. They notice when you are centered and when you are seeking. Over-explaining pulls you out of your masculine frame and places you in a position of trying to be liked rather than simply being respected. The result? You become less of a challenge, less intriguing, and more predictable, all of which quietly erode attraction. From a Stoic viewpoint, this ties directly to the principle of self-trust. If you trust yourself, you do not rush to justify your actions. You are open to dialogue, but you do not fear being misunderstood. The man who explains too much is not seeking connection, he is seeking reassurance. And women do not want to reassure a man, they want to follow one who is sure of himself. This does not mean you are cold or evasive. It means you share information when it serves a purpose, not when you feel pressured. You let silence work in your favor. You trust that if she is genuinely interested, she will stay curious. And that curiosity, when properly managed, is the birthplace of deep emotional investment. Comment below, I speak with confidence, not insecurity. When you master this habit, you step into rare territory. You become the man who doesn't explain too much, not because he's hiding, but because he trusts himself. And that trust is precisely what women find magnetic. You came into this believing that words could fix everything, but now you know the truth. It was never about the explanations. It was about becoming a man who needs no explanation. She didn't take your value, She simply reflected where you had forgotten it. If you're ready to continue walking the path of growth, like this video, subscribe and comment. I am unstoppable. Stay calm, stay silent. Keep building. The man you want to become is closer than you think.